Just a quick one before we dive in. I've just opened up 2 brand new ways to work with me. If you're an established beauty professional who's ready to increase your revenue, either in your clinic or by moving into the online mentoring and educational space, you can join me for a 2-month container where we build and validate your first online offer or your next big move. Or if you're ready to go all in, there is a 7-month private mentorship where we build, launch and scale your new revenue stream together. If you're not sure which one's right for you, I'm offering a handful of free business clarity calls, quick and powerful to map out your fastest path and to see which container fits best. Just DM me the word revenue on Instagram or check the link in the show notes and email me. Let's get into the episode.
Welcome to the Beauty Build podcast with me, Zara King. As a coach for beauty pros, it is my mission to help you earn more, work less, and create an unstoppable mindset. This is the show where we explore all of that. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting your beauty business, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and join us on the journey. And for more, get yourself inside my private community, The Beauty Build on Facebook. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode. This one is a bit of a different one from me this week. It is all about being a woman, and just because I've been so aware of me and how I've been organised or disorganised and productive and not very productive or procrastinating and all the rest of it lately, that I feel like it's just something to have a chat about, even if I am having a chat to myself and my microphone. But I hope that this episode gives you some insight and gives you some aha moments and just something to take away when it comes to how you run your daily life, your daily business activity, and I hope it helps you in life. Because let's be honest, if you are a woman listening to this, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm sorry for the men out there that might be listening to this that probably don't know what I'm talking about. But if you have a lady in your life and you might recognise some of these things, right? We bear the load of so many people most of the time. It is crazy. For me, for example, I am a mum of 3. So if you don't know me, I've got a 1-year-old, I've got a 5-year-old, and I've got a 7-year-old, nearly 8. And so life gets a bit crazy. I've also got my partner at home. So we are, parenting together, but sometimes not quite together on the same page. That's another hurdle that we have to cross. I have to look after bits to do with myself and my business and the house, and then I do all the cooking, all the cleaning pretty much, other than the fact that I do have a cleaner that comes a couple of times a week. But nonetheless, my house gets messy every single day, so I have to clean all the time as well. I then have responsibilities really for other things, for life, being as the fact that I am a sister, I am a daughter, I'm a daughter-in-law, I am a lot of things to a lot of people. And then I have my beauty business that I still do almost kind of run. So I still do clients sometimes. Then I have my coaching business. And then I obviously, of course, have this podcast. So I have a lot going on. And so I have the mental load for so many things and so many people. And I think one of those, the biggest mental loads that I carry is probably feeding everyone. It's actually as simple as thinking about what I'm cooking and doing for myself and my husband to be healthy, for the kids to remain healthy, and just to make sure that everyone's fed and thriving. I feel like that in itself is like one big deal. So let me know where you're at with that, if you feel me on that, because I think that can be sometimes super overwhelming. So that's a bit about me and my kind of thought process, because that's all of my mental load like kind of spilled out to you there a little bit. But I was talking to my husband about it the other day, saying that I carry the load of so many things, and it's just everything. Like the school, I've got so many things going on with the kids, so the 2 kids that are at school, they'll come home, one of them's got something going on that I've got to go online and sort out and book and pay for, and then get the slip back into school, and the other one's got something going on, I've got to remember the dates, got to get it in the diary. And some people just don't have to do that. Normally it falls on the woman. I don't know, some other households might be different, but I think the biggest majority, it falls on the woman to be that type of person that deals with the kids' stuff and the school stuff. So yeah, and then throw in our feminine cycles and you've got yourself some crazy kind of concoction that goes on this huge crazy loop every month. And I'm so aware of it, and it cracks me up because I was sitting on the sofa the other day saying to my husband, I'm just feeling like I could possibly cry, but I don't know why. And he was like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, listen, you wouldn't understand. I'm hormonal, clearly. And also, if you don't know me, I'm 33. I'm not exactly perimenopausal or anything else like that. I just feel like my hormones are just so, so there, and I'm so aware of my phases in my cycle. So anyway, if you don't know what like the feminine cycle is all about, and how it kind of goes, there is the phase obviously from the first day of our cycles where we are essentially on our periods, and that is where you would call us the tiger. So we're like in our resting phase, and so we should be resting, right? And the thing is, a lot of the time society is telling us to keep going and going and going. You see all of these adverts on telly that are like, put this in, do this, and you'll be absolutely fine. You can carry on running marathons and all the rest of it. That's absolutely great. Great that we have that option. And if you're not in pain, and if you're not a little bit under the weather or down or whatever, then fine, crack on and do that. And I'm not saying to stop, but what I'm saying is that I think it's been taken away from us a little bit, that is our resting phase. And so in business for us as well, as a beauty business owner yourself who probably feels this, you should remember that is your resting phase, and that the other times of your cycle could be used better by planning in for the fact that will be your resting phase, right? And that's where I want to go with this episode, because I realised about 2 years ago when I did some training with a different coach, there was another lady who trained us on the kind of feminine cycle and the moon cycle and all the rest of it. I'm not going to get into the moon side of things because I honestly don't track my cycle with the moon, although it is quite accurate, but I'm not one of those people that knows the ins and outs of the moon cycle and all the rest. So I wanted to go down the route of the phases and what it represents for us as women, and what kind of those cycle phases like what they are. So for me, as I say, it's like the tiger phase, the resting phase when you are on your period. And then when you come out of that phase, you then go into the follicular phase, which is, I was told once that it was like the cheetah phase, right? So you're happy and excited and positive and raring to go. I don't know if any of you feel like this, but it's almost like the sociable time. It's like where you've got all the energy, you're feeling a bit more excited and all the rest of it. And I think that is when you should be doing things like planning. So you put all of that positive energy down on paper, start planning things, start planning the month, the goals, the quarter, looking at your visualizations, and, just being careful not to kind of go out there and make things happen in this phase, because actually we're in that really excitable phase where we're like got all of this sort of surge of energy. And I myself have noticed that if I do too much in this stage as well, that I may do things that I probably didn't want to do, or maybe I bite off more than I can chew. That's such a good way of putting it, actually. That's how I feel, yes, in my head. So I feel like I bite off more than I can chew in that phase. So be aware of that as well. And then when you come out of that stage and you go into your ovulation stage, that is where I was once told in this training that I'm talking about, that is your kind of lioness phase. And I just like to think of it like my queen phase. I'm like, I'm getting done this phase. I'm getting it done because I can do it, right? I'm like happy. I have all of this pride. I'm leading the way. I'm shining my light. I'm taking all of my strength and energy, and I'm taking that inspired action. So whatever I've got to do in the business, I'm like getting on with it, and I feel really productive. And I'm not being all things to all people. I'm using my energy wisely. And don't forget, in this phase, I feel like this is the flip side of it. I could, and I do see myself sometimes trying to be all things to all people again. So I try not to forget where I'm at. I try not to, come off track. I try to be really purposeful, really clear, and do the things that I really feel are aligned, that I've planned previously, and that feel really good and fulfilling for me and life and business. And it's just the best phase, right? And it's obviously it's that time where you want to take that action. I don't know if you all feel like this, or it's just me that feels like this, but when I did this training a couple of years ago with the ladies that were in the coaching group that I was in, we were all blown away by how actually, yes, we do feel like lionesses at this point. And for me, talking about my own experiences, and the reason I'm doing this podcast episode today is because I've gone through a whole month cycle recently. It gets a bit personal, doesn't it, guys? And I have felt so aware of that cycle this month, and I feel like I needed to talk about it to my fellow mums, to my fellow business owners, to my fellow women out there, even if you're not mums, whatever. But doing what we do with throwing our cycles into the mix is difficult, and I feel like we should really be trying to use it to our advantage. So being as I've learned about certain aspects of this before, and I can really be aware of it now in my life and business, I wanted to share it with you in this episode, because then what happens is after the ovulation stage, we then go into the luteal stage, which is where we become like what people call us, that kind of crazy woman. I have been called crazy 1 or 2 times in my life, I'm not going to lie, and it's not acceptable. I'm not crazy. No one is crazy. They're just going through this phase. But it's that period where you're kind of like due on again. And in this phase, it's so important to notice how the hormones are changing, and and the fact that you're getting ready to then get back into the rest phase. Because imagine what you can get done when you're in this phase, but also imagine sort of like what you should and shouldn't be doing, because is it going to have a negative impact? Like this phase, I feel like, is when, it's kind of, we won't take any shit. We will not, we won't, it's kind of like we go into this protective mode. It's like, I am doing this and I'm doing it for me. So it's almost like what happens is the feminine energy comes out of us to warn us of all the crap that we did the wrong way round. And now we're showing our true selves a little bit in this phase before we come on again. And I know this is getting super personal, but I feel that so much. And you can ask my husband, I bet he feels it too, because I'm due on and I'm like, listen, I've got this to do and you're in my way, or I'm getting aggier with the kids and the rest of it. So it's almost like I feel like the feral side of me is coming out to protect myself. That is how I feel. So, I mean, let me know how you feel about that. But that is my take on it. And that's also similar to, what I was taught a couple of years ago when we looked at the moon cycles and the feminine cycle. But anyway, I really wanted to speak about it on this podcast, to talk about the fact that these hormonal changes during each phase, it affects our mood, it affects our energy levels, it affects our mental state, it affects everything. So why should we be so expectant that we can just carry on as normal? We shouldn't, I feel like society tells us you can carry on as normal and you just crack on and get things done. And that would be great. It would be really great, but the productivity just isn't there sometimes, and we have to accept it, because I think you can't pretend that these things aren't happening. We don't have that overnight reset button. And let me just tell you, actually, overnight, your hormones do reset, but you, as a woman, you still have your monthly cycle. So it's not like we just get up in the morning and we're completely fine again and we have a daily cycle. No, we have a monthly cycle. So it's like week on week on week on week. And the first thing I think is super important is just being fully aware of what stage you're in your cycle. If you can have that self-awareness and know where you're at, then you can track things, and then you can make informed decisions based on where you're at. Because let's just have a think about running a beauty business, shall we? And the mental load involved in just that. So regardless if you are a mum, whether you're a wife, whether you're a partner, whether you're an in-law, whether you're anything, right? You have a beauty business to run, and the mental load of that is absolutely huge, whether you are self-employed working in a salon and you have a team around you, or whether you are self-employed and you work from home or in a cabin in your garden, or you rent a space somewhere, or whether or not, even if you are listening to this and you're not a self-employed beauty pro, but you are employed by a big salon or whatever, big spa. If you're a spa owner even and you have a huge team, I don't mind. You will have a big mental load regardless of what level you are at in your beauty business. So let's just think about that for a second. You have got however many things on your mind, and that is what I mean by mental load. In terms of tasks, activities, things that are on your brain, almost like your mental to-do list, you have got multiple categories and things and prioritization lists going on up there, because you are probably the person that deals with absolutely everything. The person that deals with the clients and does the treatments, the person that deals with the social media, the person that deals with the emails, the person that deals with the booking system, the numbers, the stock levels, the figures, the sales, the marketing, everything that we do in business. You are probably the person that deals with that. Renewing memberships, renewing licenses, getting insurance sorted out every year. You're probably that person. So you have such a huge mental load, and it would just be so much nicer, wouldn't it, if everything ran smoothly all the time? And I'm not telling you that it ever will, because it probably won't. And commonly, it doesn't. Commonly, what happens is we go through those phases that I mentioned at the beginning, and we'll find ourselves crumbling, around stage 3, stage 4, when we're due on or when we're on. And it's just, we've got to be aware of it, because if you can manage your multiple roles simultaneously in such a positive way, and in a way that really works to your advantage in terms of your cycle, you're going to be much, much happier getting things done, and you're probably going to get more done, because commonly, again, what we do is we try and bite off more than we can chew in those phases that I've mentioned. Right? So you've come off, you're thinking, great, I've got all this energy, I'm going to bounce around, I'm going to bounce off the walls, and I'm going to get everything done and be super productive. And then you are knackered. And then your brain goes absolutely into meltdown, because you don't know what's going on. And I'm guilty of it too. That's why I'm here. That's why I thought I'd have this chat with my microphone today and let you know where I'm at with thinking about it, because I think it could help so many people to realize those phases and make the most of them, so that actually, instead of just being some sort of victim to our feminine cycles, I feel like we can actually leverage that for a bit more productivity and a bit more success in our beauty businesses. So you can align the business activities with the relevant phases of your feminine cycle. So the first step is obviously finding out where you're at and and how long your cycle sort of lasts, how long you're in each phase. And that can be fun, figuring that out. And then maximize your energy whilst you're in your good phases, and get focused during the phases where you're kind of high energy, you've just come off, you've got all this energy. Get focused, start planning. Right? And then you obviously go into the start doing, and then you start looking and you start reviewing. I'm going to get onto that in a minute. So at this point, I think you can start realizing where you're all at and really prioritize the self-care. So before you get into all of this and actually start using it to your advantage, think about where you're at and noticing it, and make a kind of habit of realizing where you're at and having this level of self-awareness, and really prioritize your self-care and managing your stress during the period where you're trying to notice everything, because then you will probably realize, oh yeah, this is like a low energy phase. And you'll realize that when you're on, and then obviously in the luteal phase before you come on again, those are your really low energy phases. So you're going to really realize that, I need to focus on self-care during this stage for your personal life, but you also need to focus maybe more on reviewing what's going on in business, and then planning what's happening in business, and obviously resting. Yeah. So that's something I think you should do, because then once you've done that, you can start overcoming the different challenges and create that unstoppable mindset that I talk about. Our mindset plays such a massive role in our success. If you ask anyone, they will say it's 80 to 90% of the game when it comes to business success. Your mindset needs to be strong. So as women in business who have this up and down cycle all the time of hormone changes, wouldn't it be nice to actually understand what is going on with our mindset, so that we can be fully aware of it, so then we can make better decisions and actually enjoy the process and not feel guilty? Because that's one of the biggest things for me. One of the biggest challenges for me is that feeling of guilt. I'm like, oh, I did not get this done, or I did not get that done, and I feel so guilty. But actually, when I peel myself away from, just feeling guilty, I realize that, well, I'm in this phase and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So because I haven't done it the right way round, or for me, I haven't done it in the right alignment, that's why I feel like this. And I can learn from it, and I can change it the following couple of weeks, the following month. So you can do the same as well. Once you realize where you're at and the things that bring up these emotions for you and change your mindset, you can start looking at that common pattern that you see, and then create your own techniques for actually reframing any mindset problems and any limiting beliefs that crop up, and shift those negative energies into positive energies in the right phases, so that you know where you're at and how you're dealing with certain scenarios. So I love this kind of work because it's a bit woo-woo, it's a bit inward, and it's so important because actually it will give you such good results, because energy is everything. If you don't know me by now, you should know that energy is what I love. I think that everything you put out into this world has an energy connected to it. So if it's a positive energy, great. But if it's not, you're not going to get the results that you want. A lot of the time we don't align our energy, and this kind of work is just that. It's aligning your energy. And it might also be a case of protecting your energy. And doing this work helps you do that, because once you realise where you're at and what you should be focusing on, you can start thinking about, well, actually, maybe I should be delegating some of my tasks this week. This is what I'm going to plan. These are the boundaries as well that I cannot have crossed this week, right? So it would really help you understand yourself in such a deeper way, and I absolutely love it. Who wouldn't love it? So I encourage you to experiment. I encourage you to have a look at where you're at and how you feel your pattern is, and do you see dips? Do you see highs and lows? And does it make sense to you? And can you start tracking where you're at, so that then you can plan these things in, so that you can just have your own unique approach to this kind of thing and use it to your favor, rather than instead of like falling victim to our lower mood times, shall we say, when we need to be resting or when we need to only be planning instead of do. But the way I like to do it, just to let you know, is I always think about it as this. So it's plan, do, review and rest. So that's, I've just come off, I'm going to plan. I've got all this energy, I'm feeling really productive, I'm going to plan. And then it's like, right, now I know what to do with this energy, because I've calmed down a little bit, but I've still got the great energy. I'm the queen now. So for this week, I'm going to be productive. I'm going to make sure I do, like, this is where I would do things that are like more than the average. So I would, if I've got bigger ideas, newer ideas, or something needs changing up that's not on top of my weekly activity, I'll be like, this is the week I need to get that done. I need to be a doer this week. And then the following, when I know I'm like due on again, it's kind of like, okay, now I need to review, because I know my feral cat is coming out. I know that I'm going to go a bit wild, and nothing really should be annoying me in this stage, because it's only going to make me feel crap. So I need to review and see how things are going, and make sure that then I can plan again and go for it. And then I'll rest when I come on. So it's plan, do, review and rest. That is the way that I like to do it. And that is what I need to get back into, because in case you haven't noticed, I've come on today into this microphone to tell you all that I have obviously noticed this more and more recently this month. So I need to get my shit together again. And yeah, I hope you guys love this episode as much as I love talking about this kind of stuff. If you take anything from it, if it's useful to you, if you work out your own unique kind of way of looking at your feminine cycles to your advantage, then let me know, please. Tag me in your stories. Let me know your thoughts on this episode. And yeah, I'll see you all on the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and gained valuable insights that will help you in your beauty business and life. If you did, please take a screenshot and tag me in your stories. If you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me on any of my socials. The links are always in the descriptions. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us improve and bring you more and more great content. Until next time, keep building that business.